Hello, fire goddesses. Welcome to episode 73. In this episode, I am delighted to share my next guest with you, Andrea Niño de Guzmán. As you will quickly discover, Andrea has this really unique ability to combine her knowledge of business with ancient wisdom, and she has several tools in her toolbox which she uses when she works with clients to help primarily women, and we're going to go into the conversation, but primarily women who are in business and maybe they have limited beliefs, they're playing small, they have imposter syndrome, and you probably already know that those are some common concerns when you have your own business and in life in general, isn't it? So without further ado, I welcome you to listen to this very special episode. I worked with Andrea for a couple of sessions, and I have to say that the work that she offers really is remarkable. I've had human design readings in the past, but the way that Andrea brings in her knowledge of business is really unique. And she uses her skill set with intuition, with the ancient wisdom, with going into the divine feminine, and it really is this beautiful thing. And I truly believe that what Andrea offers is going to really help the way that we do business, especially with women. So please welcome Andrea Niño de Guzmán. Hello, fire goddesses. Welcome to the Reclaim Your Fire podcast. My name is Angela Noel, and I am a prosperity coach for the newly awakened or awake curious, driven overachiever, and overdoer. After running a successful acupuncture practice in Boston for 12 years, I decided to hang my hat by closing the practice and pursue what it is that I'm really meant to do in this world, and that is to serve humanity online on a global scale. Using my background in Chinese medicine, along with the brain science of habits, spirituality, and divine masculine and feminine energy balance, I am here to help you not just understand, but know how powerful you are, and that you are the person who is responsible for having the finances, inner peace, radiant health, and energy, aka the fire, in your life that you've always desired. My intention with this podcast is to serve humanity, no matter what gender you identify as, to help bring out the divine feminine goddess in each and every one of you. As you probably are already aware, the world is changing and is begging for the goddess to come out in each and every one of you. So, fire goddesses, stay tuned. Hello, fire goddesses. Welcome back to the Reclaim Your Fire podcast. My name is Angela Noel, and I am the host of the podcast. And today, I have to say, I'm really delighted to introduce my next guest, Miss Andrea Niño de Guzmán. Hi, Andrea. How are you?
Hello. Thank you. I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
I'm so excited to talk to you. We've been chatting quite a bit lately in the last month or so, and I'm really looking forward to letting the goddesses listening know how you help people, because you really, I believe the work that you do is really making an impact.
Oh, thank you. Well, I consider myself a transformation catalyst. I work with specifically women, women who are in the process of starting their own business or have been in business for about 2 years for now, but haven't been getting the results that they were expecting, or even playing small. They're women who have a ton of potential, who are very talented, but they just are not putting themselves out there, and they're just holding themselves back. So what I help them with is to help them reconnect with their potential. I help them release their inner saboteurs, reframe the perception that they have about themselves, and basically restore their own power. my goal at the end of the day is to empower women to change the way that business is done in a way that aligns with them, in a way that is more sustainable for a woman, and I truly believe that women are in themselves the catalyst for change, because as a woman changes, it's not only her that changes, it's her family, it's her community, everybody changes when as she starts to stand in her power, own her light, own her space.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Those are some really powerful words that you just used, Andrea, and I'd love to just break it apart, because so many goddesses listening, some goddesses might be listening to this and say, yes, 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 like I hear you. But sometimes just to be able to understand what specifically this all means, like I heard reconnect and retrain and restore power. And also you said something that really stood out that I didn't write down about changing how women do business, right? So I would love to dive deep into that first, because so much of what I talk about and help people with is divine masculine and the divine feminine. So, historically, how have women been in business? What does that look like?
What I've observed, and this is my experience coming from like 14 years in the corporate sector, right, is it's a very competitive environment. It's very focused on either or, it's very black and white, very goal oriented. And, women, I feel that women can achieve the same results, but you don't really need the competition. You don't really need to put somebody down in order for you to be on top. I feel that women have this natural ability to collaborate, to create networks, and to really rely upon each other to move forward. And for me, that's the different perspective of how we do business. And if you go further, it's more than just money. Yes, you do need money, because money is a great mechanism that can get you from point A to point B. But it's also about building a business and running a business that is sustainable, where you're not burning yourself out, where you're not having to think or even judge yourself as to how many times you're spending in your business versus, with your family, or spending time by yourself, honoring stuff that you like to do. And when you look at it in a more holistic way, in a more integral way, I feel that you can not only have greater success in business, have greater results, but they can also be sustainable over time, and it's coming from a place of being of service instead of coming from a place of what can I get out of this, that I feel is a more masculine energy, right?
Yeah, that is the way it's been going on for a long time. We've been so in our masculine. And I was listening to a podcast recently, and I listened to so many things where it was broken down about what has caused us to be in the masculine for so long. And it's believed that it went back to like maybe the Industrial Revolution, or even before that, where it was all about, working really hard to get ahead. That was sort of, the framework that they were working on. It was out of survival. It was like it came from a place of survival, right?
Exactly. Yes.
But now, it's changed. Things have changed. Like, we don't need to work that way anymore. But yet it takes a while to change that paradigm.
It's changing slowly but surely. It's changing. I feel that more women are coming on board to this new way of thinking, and even men too. I feel that even through what happened in 2020, what's going on right now, all these structural changes are also helping us rethink about what's important for us. And at some point in time, maybe work and, working 10 or 12 hours to meet a quota, a deadline, or to just earn the corner office was important. But now you're starting to realize that, no, it's not just that, it's also my life. It's how I want to live my life and how I choose to spend my time, which is even more precious. with others, or just doing activities that fulfill me. And the other thing that I notice between the masculine and the feminine is the masculine is very focused on the rational, the analytical side, the thinking things through, the pressure to solve problems, with the focus on my mind, with my experience, with my abilities. It's very focused on the doing. Whereas the feminine side not only takes in the doing, but also takes into account what am I feeling? What am I sensing? There's a lot of intuition. There's a lot of intuitive knowledge in there, and a lot of emotional knowledge as well. And when we just focus on one specific way of doing business, we're really like shutting down 66% of our capability of how we're processing information. And I think that's where we put so much stress on ourselves, because we don't honor that inner wisdom that we have, because we're all, designed differently, uniquely. And we just put so much pressure to be and to fit in a role, or to fit in a way that isn't necessarily aligned with who we really are.
Yeah. And so many things have happened as a result. Like, one of the things that I used to always see in the acupuncture practice were these women, these type A, because I had a practice in Boston, very type A city. And I know we just were talking about Boston before. We went to school in Boston, and all these really driven people, right, were coming into the office, overachievers, and having migraines, and they were having, lots of pain in their shoulders, upper back pain, just all that stress was actually living in their body. And you mentioned the pandemic, you mentioned 2020, about how people are really starting to gradually realize what's important to them, and that they actually need balance. And I heard you mention sustainability too. Just when you were talking about the just being in, we need both, right? We need the masculine as I think of it as like the container, right, to hold the feminine in, right? We need that drive, but at the same time, if we're just using that energy, like you said, what happens? Like,
you wear yourself out.
So tired.
And it's not nice. Yeah, it's not pretty. It's very frustrating, I don't know if I told you this, but when I was in corporate, I experienced burnout, and from one day to another, I couldn't add. Like, adding the simplest equation, like 2 + 2, was so difficult for me because I was so tired, and I felt like this pressure on my head, and this cloud that came over me of I just couldn't think. And prior to that episode, I was running 2 companies at the same time. One was a huge startup with a very, very aggressive goal, and the other one was a 30-year-old company. And I was the superwoman. I was a power woman, the one who could do it all. I was the only woman in the executive team, so I felt like I had a lot to prove, right? And in terms of being available constantly, in terms of not saying no because I was also a mom. I had that stigma of I have to be at the same level of, the same playing field. And it got to a point where I just could not function. I could not function at all. And this simplest task forever to complete, it took me forever to analyze things, to decide things. And obviously that took a toll on the business in general, because I was no longer, that powerhouse that just kept on pushing through. And I needed to take time for myself. That episode was very painful for me, because it was tied with a lot of shame of, I'm quote unquote not as strong as I thought I was. I'm not up to par to running a business, like everybody expects me to. And I was really afraid of just losing my job, because I didn't feel like I was meeting their expectations. And I guess that's why I have this drive. I have this purpose of changing the way we do business, because had things been different, and not only in my context, but in my mind, had I had different expectations about myself, or had I, been even more compassionate with myself at that time, and instead of just focusing on what I'm lacking, also honoring what I'm doing well, maybe I wouldn't have, hit the bottom of the well with burnout.
Thank you for sharing your story, Andrea. I think a lot of people listening are going to be able to relate to your story in one way or the other, experiencing burnout, of feeling, not good enough, having to prove, having to push through. Was it us that were we talking about those cycles, women's cycles versus men's cycles? Like, we as women have 28-day cycles, and men have 24-hour cycles. So literally, like, men can just start over with their cycle after one day, but women, we actually have these 28-day cycles that dictate our energy and where we are at energetically. And even if you don't have a period, or you don't have your cycle anymore, you can use the phases of the moon to really dive into that. One of the reasons why we're connected, I mean, we've been connected for a couple of years, but we're really connected now, is because of your human design and your human design business. Like, you, I had 2 readings with you, full readings, in the last couple of weeks, and they were super impactful. They really helped me with my business, with my personal life. And I would love it if we could just maybe talk about your experience that you had in corporate in relationship to human design, and maybe just touch upon that a little bit. What is human design? I know you have other tools too, Andrea. So
yes,
we'll start with
Pandora's box.
What Pandora's box? Exactly.
Pandora's box.
Yeah. So whatever you feel like sharing about your tools, but specifically, if you could share like how you help people now, using yourself as a case study. Does that make sense?
Yes. Okay. So, human design is basically the science of understanding yourself. It's a tool that sheds light on your, emotional, psychological, energetic makeup, how you align with your unique nature, and how to, and what is your highest potential in every area of your life, be it your career, your business, your relationships, everywhere. And the beauty of human design is that it brings together ancient wisdom in the sense of astrology. We have the Chinese I Ching, the Hindu chakra system, and the Kabbalah, and it joins it with modern science, focusing on quantum physics and chemistry and biochemistry and genetics. So it's basically, in essence, like your operating manual for how you are uniquely designed to make decisions, to communicate, and to flow, and to create what you want in life. So it's not about changing who you are. And that's what I love about human design, because a lot of the systems are focused on what's wrong with you. Let's fix you. And human design isn't about that. It's not about changing who you are, because you're not broken. You don't need fixing. But really, it's about giving you full permission to be who you've always been. That was what sold me to human design.
Yeah, because so many times in between our conditioning, right, and society, and being in this masculine culture that we are brought up in, we think that if things aren't going right or well for us, there's something wrong with us, that we're not doing something right, and we're not good enough. And the more I learn about human design, the more I realize, wow, like it really is. And maybe we could talk about that, like, when we're born, it goes down to maybe you could chat about that, like the minute and where you were born, location wise, like all of that influences our energetic.
Exactly. So when you're born and 3 months prior, you receive an energetic blueprint based on where the planets are aligned. It's on the planetary alignments. And that determines what archetypes are going to show up more in your life. We call them gates, or in human design. And it's those archetypes, whether they are expressed kind of like as if it were a giant billboard with a bunch of light bulbs. When they're expressed, they're lit on, and when they're not expressed, they're off. So when they're expressed, you have this constant access to that specific set of energy. And when they're off, it really depends on who you're engaging with, who you're interacting, other people in your environment, that influences whether those get turned on or not. And that's where conditioning comes in, because as we observe our parents' behaviors when we're growing up, or even like what we learn about in school and society, what we hear about from TV, and as we start navigating the shoulds and should nots of how we're supposed to behave, we start incorporating behaviors that are not really aligned with our design, behaviors that are not our own. And that's where most of the struggle comes up, because we keep on behaving this way. We don't get the results, and we keep on pushing and pushing and pushing. It seems like it's very tiring, because we're rowing against the current and nothing seems to be working, and everything seems to be failing, and we don't feel like we're being recognized. We don't feel like we belong. We feel like there's something wrong with us. And that's why we focus on, let me fix me. I need somebody to fix me. I need somebody to show me the road so that I can start accepting myself. And in reality, it's all about identifying those areas of conditioning, the thoughts, the feelings, the emotions, the perceptions, the ideas that you have about yourself, and also about how society and how the world works. You start identifying them in order to decondition yourself from that, just to take them away. That's where hypnosis comes in. That's another tool that I use with my clients. But really in an effort to take away what's not yours, take away what doesn't serve you, take away those perceptions about yourself, about your lovability, about your worth that aren't really true, so that you can stay and so that you can start living from your true and highest potential. And that's what your blueprint reflects.
That's, that's so powerful, because in just going back to where you were at when you were in your job and you reached burnout, according to your human design, and because I just feel like your story is going to relate to so many people out there, according to your human design, Andrea, how would you do things differently if you had that knowledge back then?
I would do everything differently.
Yeah.
In my case, I have a lot of definition in my design. So I have a lot of energy. I have a lot of power in my design. And it's a feedback. It's something that I get from people. They always tell me, you're so centered, you're so calm, you're so focused. Like, you're this person that I can trust, or you're this person that seems to have it all under control. And when I started working, just because I was the only woman in this company and I was so young, and I felt like I wasn't good enough. I felt that I had to prove myself. And that was my thing. I had to prove my worth. I had to prove that I was worthy of having that title, that I was worthy of having that job, that I was worthy of being able to earn that amount of money. Because in my mind, I kept on thinking, no, what I'm doing is not enough. I need to do more. I need to do more. I need to do more. And it's like, I was like, everybody's on an average scale, and being on the average wasn't good enough for me. I needed to excel expectations. And that's what made it so tiring at that time. And so now, knowing my design, knowing that I have that power, and knowing that I have an open will. When you study human design, the open will is where self-worth lives. I was really expressing my insecurities based on the conditioning that I had received from my parents, from my mom. My mom, I'm from Bolivia. So in Bolivia, the females are generally, historically, have been seen as less. And we're still striving to make steps forward to be seen as equals, much like everywhere in the world. Women earn a lot less. There's a lot of domestic violence here in Bolivia. So there's this kind of like collective concept of we're not enough, or I'm less than. And I think that's what I inherited, and that's what I was expressing. So when I learned about my design, and when I learned that I have this open will center, that this is a challenge that I am gonna encounter, it was very liberating, because the focus was no longer on, okay, there's something wrong with me, or I didn't feel ashamed about who or what I was doing. There was no longer any criticism about who I was. And instead it was, I felt like I had a more kind of like a neutral stance on, okay, this is what's going on. I've been subject to this conditioning. It's not mine, but I have the power now to get rid of it. It's not part of me.
Yeah.
And that changed the whole way of how I've been approaching life, and this is something that has really gained momentum in the past, I would say, 6 months. A lot of the personal work that I've been doing now has been not to play small, because I was playing small. I was, keeping myself safe. I was keeping myself safe from making mistakes, because I still had this perfectionist thing going on. I still wanted to be perceived in a certain way. And as I've been shedding those layers of perfectionism, of and even like no longer giving importance to what other people or how other people see me, it's been very, very liberating. The other thing that I learned about through my design is that as a manifesting generator, I'm designed to like multiple things. And
Yep.
when I started working on my own, when I left corporate and I started coaching full time, I didn't really feel comfortable, because I do like the business side. I like the strategic side. I mentor startups. And on the other end, I love personal development. And, if you could see my schedule, in the mornings, I'll mentor startups on, business strategy and how they have to, create their product to fit the market's needs. And after that session, I'll go into a hypnosis session. And after that, I'll go into energy healing session, because that's also something that I do and I love. And there was a lot of judgment. There's a lot of inner judgment, thinking that, oh, I see all these gurus out there. I see all these experts, and they're great at one thing. And here I am, kind of jumping from one thing to another. Am I really an expert? Why would these people trust me if I'm just doing multiple things at the same time?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of conditioning in society, that you have to focus on one thing and only be good at that one thing, because if you start, putting your attention in multiple things, then you're not going to be good at anything.
Yeah, that you have to be an expert. Yeah.
You have to be that expert. And so knowing that I can, and that I actually need that energy, I need that multiple points of attention, is actually good for me to process my energy, was also very liberating.
Yeah.
And now I am able to introduce myself as a multipotentialite. I am able, and even like when I pitch companies for strategic projects, I also talk about the human development side. I also talk about human design, and I also talk about the energy healing. I don't longer hide it.
Yeah, because it's who you are, right? It's
exactly.
You're being. And as I talk to you, you're lighting up about, especially in the last couple of minutes, about just being who you truly are in the business world.
Yes.
And I'm curious to know, how is that when you're being who you truly are in the business world, which is usually pretty masculine and black and white, like you said, how is that being received by the people that you're meeting with?
A lot easier.
Yeah.
Than what I thought it would be. It's easy. It's easy. And I've actually had a lot of requests from clients to work specifically with me. And this insurance company reached out to me a couple of months ago, and it was for a design thinking project. And he specifically told me, I want to work with you because you have the multiple focus, because you understand people, but you also understand how to create a product. And that's the essence of just being yourself,
Yes.
and not just, in my case, it wasn't just focusing on, this is my experience, this is my rational analytical experience, because a lot of the coaching that I do, yes, I have the training, but a lot of it is based on intuition. It's I connect with that person on a different level, and a lot of what I share comes from, it's not my rational knowing, it's a deeper knowing, and a lot of times I say things or I express things or I ask questions that don't come from me. They come from something bigger.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, you said so many amazing things, Andrea. I would love to just keep talk about several things at this point, but what really came out in what you just said was that there's this sense of ease by being yourself. And I was on a call before we talked today with one of my coaches, and she was saying, imagine if we all walked around as we truly are, there would be no drama. There would be no, because right, we're not fighting for our limitations. We're not in our old programming. We're just who we are. Imagine that we could all shine our light. And I really believe that we are moving, like you said, in a better direction. It feels hard right now because in order for change to happen, you've got to break down the old systems, and that's hard, right? Because there are people that are, again, fighting for their beliefs, fighting for what was, right? And I just, I feel that it's a really exciting time to be alive.
It is. And if I may add to that, while it's still a struggle, and it's slowly becoming less of a struggle to change the way, that business is done, to change the way that we show up. It is also, I feel that when we show up authentically, when we stop playing small, when we really own our power, the impact that you have is so much greater than if you would be pushing and using force to prove your point, and I feel that it's kind of like, if not showing up as you truly are, not showing up, owning and stepping and working from your highest potential, it's like doing a disservice to your community.
Yes, you're doing a disservice. Well, because you're spending so much time, first of all, being hard on yourself and having the negative self-talk and spending all this energy trying to prove, right, or achieve or do or whatever. You're burning yourself out, right, like your story. Whereas when you actually step into who you are, it just becomes, you can serve more people because people are going to recognize, whether they realize it's consciously or subconsciously, they recognize you by your energy, right?
Yes.
So if you're somebody that's always trying to compete or something, or if you're beating yourself up, people are going to recognize that whether they know it or not. They're going to be like, oh, I'm not sure about that person because there's something about that person I just don't like, right?
Exactly.
And imagine if we were just who we were, there wouldn't be any of that. It would just be easy. And like you said, we're able to serve better when we have more energy to do that.
We're able to serve better. Your attention, where you put your attention changes. You become more in control of your own creative power. It's not, you're no longer reactive to the situation. It's you're more focused on working from possibility. It just, everything changes when you just decide to shed the layers and really just show up as you are.
Yes. So exciting, Andrea. So you work with, so if somebody's listening to you and they are like, I want to work with Andrea, she sounds amazing. I know you said you work with corporations. Do you work with individuals too? And how can people find you and work with you?
I love working one-on-one. Absolutely love it. I still do some corporate work, but I am focusing more and more on small business owners, entrepreneurs, women who are leading or who are creating products for business, for women, or who are looking to empower and inspire other women. That's my focus. And the way to work with me is, just connect with me through Instagram. I have a 6-month program, a quantum transformation program, where we go through your human design. We identify, what are your points of conditioning. We use hypnosis to release those inner saboteurs. And we use other tools to reframe the stories that you're telling about yourself, about your potential, about your goals, and also not only about yourself, but what it means to run a business, what it means to be successful, what it means to earn money, what it means to be a woman in business. We shed all of those stories. And then we work one-on-one on restoring your authentic power, on really helping you play big. And the way that I work is very different from the way traditional coaches work. I am moving away from the one-on-one 1-hour sessions where we just talk about what happened over the week. And instead I'm very hands-on with voice notes, with messages where I am your partner, your sidekick, whether you're nervous before going into a meeting or you've had some, a difficult conversation, we're constantly in contact so that I'm coaching you basically in the field, not after. Mm-hmm. And for me, changing the way that I coach in that sense has changed the way that my clients get results. Has completely changed it because, I have clients that tell me, I just keep hearing your voice all day, like, oh my power, because we talk so much. And for me, that's the best way that I can be of service to somebody, like in action, like while it's happening, not 3 days after,
That's brilliant, actually. So you're basically, you're doing less of the, hour calls, but
yeah,
like, hey, like, I'm struggling with this right now. Can you help me?
Exactly.
Through voice text or whatever.
Yes. And if it's a big issue, then we'll hop on a call. I obviously do hypnosis in the 1-hour sessions, but everything else, like the daily, for me and for my clients, I feel is better if we just do it as it's happening.
Yeah. Wow. Well, your clients are very lucky to have you, Andrea.
Thank you.
As I mentioned earlier, for those listening, I had 2 full sessions with Andrea in the last 2 weeks or so. And some of the things that you reflected back to me were, and said it in a way, you saw it. There was something you saw in me, in my field, and you're like, how about you do this? And it's something that I've been working with ever since. And it was regard to my messaging, like how to message. And then I've also been going through a really personal thing, and you helped me through that by being able to see read my human design. And it was super, super amazing. So anybody who is curious about human design and wants to work with Andrea, please look her up. I will put everything in the show notes. And I know you said you have your programs. The program you mentioned is starting soon, right?
It's starting soon. I am actually running a pilot inspired by you. Thank you very much.
Oh my gosh, I'm honored. I'm so honored.
I call it the Aligned Business Program, and where we join human design with creating a sustainable business model. It's basically how to build your business around your energetic blueprint.
So powerful. Not that I was surprised, I wasn't surprised, but I was blown away by some of the things that came up during my readings around business. And I'm also a manifesting generator, and I also have struggled. When I say struggle, big time, with feeling like I needed to stay on one path, but it never felt right. And when you said you're not somebody that's supposed to do one thing, I was like, oh my God, thank God. It was just so I felt validated. I felt heard. I felt okay, this makes so much sense for how I was feeling when I was growing up and way into my 40s.
And that's what inspired me to create the program. That sense that what you just said, I hear all these information of how I should start running a business, of how I should create product, of how I should communicate. But something inside me doesn't really feel right. It doesn't align. But we kind of shut that down because we feel or we think that the other person, is an expert in the field, knows what he or she is doing, and that we should listen to that person.
Yeah.
Whereas when you really understand your design, for example, that you're not meant to just focus on one thing. You have the energy, you have the natural ability to handle multiple things. Yeah. And then when somebody else tells you, no, you just need to focus on one thing, then you have the resources to say no, and this is what I want. And you have the resources to honor your intuition, to honor that inner wisdom, to tell you how you want to run the business.
Yeah. So, Andrea, what percentage of the population are manifesting generators? Because I know I am one and you are one.
About 33% of the population. So we're quite a bunch.
That's quite a bit of people, right? So, and there's what, five?
So there are 5 types. Yes.
Yeah.
We have manifestors who make up around 10%, manifesting generators who make up around 33%, generators make up the other 33%, then projectors that are coming in at 20%, and reflectors that are like the unicorns. They're 1% of the population. They're very, very rare. So I'd say like 70% of the population are either generators or manifestors. And what's important about that is that, they need to be driven. They need to do things that they love.
Yeah.
They need to, business needs to be tied with pleasure. They need to really enjoy what they're doing. And, going back to burnout, a lot of what we see in people is, they're stuck in contracts or working with clients that they don't really enjoy. They're stuck in jobs or doing things that they don't really enjoy because it's going to get them more money, because there's still a lot of security tied with them. But they're working against their design. And there's going to come a time where they're going to get sick, where all of that emotional energy, all of that energy that's not being processed fully, or that's not being expressed as it should be, is going to manifest in disease.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up, because really, when it comes down to, people are like, well, I don't really get why I need to be aligned like I want to, but they're still in that old model of wanting to achieve and do. But it does come down to your physical health in the end, right? Mm-hmm. As you discovered for yourself, and I've been through adrenal fatigue and all the things, and also just going back to the fact that, manifesting generators are 30% and generators are 30%, and so on. And to, if you think about, if you're resonating with our story about how neither one of us as manifesting generators want to do just one thing, I know a lot of people like that. I also know a lot of manifesting generators. It might be a good thing to find out what your human design is.
Oh, yes.
And maybe get a reading and find out more, because I just know how I felt for a good part of my life. Like, oh my God, I felt like a failure. I felt like I couldn't do enough because I was so out of alignment, my human design and who I am. So yeah. So many, there's so much opportunity here to discover.
Oh, yes. Yes. No, human design is a wonderful tool to start to get to know yourself. And I would say anybody who's struggling with their lovability, with self-worth, who finds themselves pushing or trying to prove themselves, trying to either be that super woman, that power woman, or on the other end, hiding because they feel they're not ready, or holding themselves back I feel that they would gain a lot from having a reading, a lot of freedom, a lot of weight off their shoulders.
Yes, I know I felt that freedom and that weight off my shoulders after I talked to you. So Andrea, thank you so much. You are
my pleasure.
You are being the change by who you are, by living in alignment with the human design. I know that you also bring in a lot of great tools, hypnosis and Reiki, and I just love what you're doing and I adore you. I'm so glad we were able to have this conversation today.
Thank you. Thank you. I feel so honored to be here with you. Thank you so much.
It's an honor to have you here. And so I'm going to put Andrea everything in the show notes if you want to look her up. Do you have any parting words, any takeaways for the goddesses listening before we end the podcast today?
I am going to end with the words from one of my mentors, which is Karen Curry Parker. She's a creator of quantum human design, and it's something that I shared with you. You're a once in a lifetime cosmic event. You're not broken. There's no need to be fixed. You're unique and special as you are. And it's time for you to start owning it.
That's so beautiful. What's the author again?
Karen Craig Parker.
Oh, I think I have the book, the red one.
Yes, the red one.
I have the red book. I don't have the blue book, but I have the red book. Thank you, Andrea. It was really lovely to talk to you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And to the goddesses listening, till next time, be radiant, be powerfully authentic, and know that you can reclaim your fire at any time. Take care.
Thank you so much for listening to the Reclaim Your Fire podcast. If you have found value in this podcast, please share this podcast with those you care about. As you probably already know, in order for the world to change, we need to change. So spread the word by sharing this podcast or by leaving a review in iTunes. Until next time, Fire Goddess, be radiant, be fiery, and be powerfully authentic. Take care.